I've only missed one meeting in the last 3 years.
I gotta make it.
But I had a good excuse.
I gotta make them a plaque.
No. That's exactly.
Okay, so
Good evening. I'd like to go ahead and call tonight's planning commission meeting to order. It's August 1st, 2023, 6 p.m. Jordan, would you take a roll call, please?
David Lane,
here,
Mario Manigo,
Here.
Elizabeth Davis. Here. Jennifer Fasking, Wendy Venters,
Here.
Colin Wells, Rick Hemingway, Tina Summerlin,
Here.
and Craig Fuller.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If you would please stand, and Commissioner Manigo is going to lead us in tonight's invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion and positive resolution. In your name, I pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have commissioners had a chance to review last month's meeting minutes?
Yes.
If so, we'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from last meeting, July 11th.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting minutes approved, motion carries. At this time, I'll offer an explanation of the hearings. The cases will be read into the record. City staff will provide a presentation. Commissioners will then ask questions of city staff. We'll close the planning commission hearing and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against a case, starting with the applicant, may do so. Comments are limited to 5 minutes. Once everybody has been given the opportunity to speak, we'll close the public hearing and reopen the planning commission hearing. And at that time, we'll ask commissioners if they have any questions or if they have a motion to be made, and we'll call for the vote. Jordan, if you want to do a swearing in, if there's anybody present that thinks they'd like to speak, we'll ask that you stand, and Jordan will go ahead and swear you in.
It's for any case tonight if you think you're going to speak. Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth?
Okay. Moving right along. Case number P-23-39, request by Latigo Winter Haven LLC to amend Plan Unit Development Ordinance 0-22-11. South, general location south of Coon Lake Road and lying between Lake Hart and Lake Reeves. The area covered by this request is 66.83 plus or minus acres. We need to make a.
Yes, I was just going to let you know that staff did receive a letter late last week requesting to continue this to October 3rd.
Okay. So
I'd like to make a motion to continue this till October, to the October 3rd, 2023 Planning Commission meeting.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Case number P-23-08-S, request by Brianna Pierre Francois for special use approval for a large scale drinking establishment located in Commercial Highway C3 zoning district, general location 1078 Havendale Boulevard. The area covered by this request is 0.06 plus minus acres. And
Heather Reuter, senior planner for the record. This is the zoning map for the location. As you can see, it's there in the hatch. It is located in the C3 zoning district. The southern portion of the same shopping center is subject to a plan unit development, as well as some separate plan unit developments to the east and west. There is residential single family to the far west adjacent to this parcel. And then there is also some a park, as well as some commercial neighborhood and multifamily to the east across Highway 17. As you look here at the aerial map, as you can see, it is located in the Spring Lake Square Shopping Center. The unit is outlined there in red, located in the plaza. This is a view of the subject property. This is a view looking to the west in the plaza. As you look to the north, you have parking for the plaza, and then to the east. This is a request for special use approval for a large-scale drinking establishment. The applicant proposes to operate Lola's Event Center at 1078 Havendale Boulevard in the Spring Lake Square in the approximately 2,400 square foot lease space. It does not meet separation requirements from a church as required by the code, and the request for variance to reduce the separation was denied at the July 21st, 2023 DSM hearing. Lola's Event Center was cited by code compliance February 17th, 2023 for operating an alcoholic beverage establishment within 400 feet of a church and operating a large-scale drinking establishment without special use approval. After notice of the citations, operations at Lola's halted for a brief period. However, the business owner has started operations again as of June 23rd, 2023 in violation. Additionally, the business has not obtained state licensing for the sale of alcohol nor tobacco products, but advertisement for both alcohol and hookah sales continues, and the Winter Haven Police Department has responded to the location and witnessed operations with hookah and alcohol. Even if proper alcohol licensing was in place, some events have occurred outside of the permitted hours of service within the city. A July 7th, 2023 event advertised from 2:30 a.m. to 5 a.m. was shut down by the Winter Haven Police Department when they responded to a report of a suspicious event at 3:10 a.m. Staff's review yields the following conclusions. The subject property is located in a commercial shopping center designed to allow for a mixture of uses to coexist harmoniously with certain shared common areas and infrastructure elements. The C3 zoning designation permits large-scale drinking establishments by special use approval. Per section 21.411, special uses are generally considered to be appropriate for any zoning district that permits the particular use by the special use approval. The intent of the special use is to provide for a process to review, as the use by their nature may need to be more closely examined for compatibility at a particular location. The continued unpermitted activities, Winter Haven Police Department response to said activities, and impact to the surrounding property owners, especially the residential within the area, can be determined to be injurious to the area involved and otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. As the applicant has continued operations without required approvals, there is concern any proposed conditions to mitigate these impacts to the surrounding area and public would not be successful. And a large-scale drinking establishment is required to meet a 400-foot separation from a church. The proposed use is located 320 plus or minus feet from a church. A request for a variance as permitted by section 2196 of the Code of Ordinances to reduce the separation from a church was heard by the Development Special Magistrate July 21st, 2023. The variance request was denied. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Commission deny this request based on the stated conclusions. I did provide a picture of the floor plan that was submitted as a part of the request. And I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
Yes, was there discussion of whether they would have music, singing and late night, early morning, excuse me, operation?
I don't know what the plans for the business are. Again, they've been operating outside of the realms of approval and outside of hours that would be permitted, even if they had approval. Again, staff is recommending denial of this request, so we have not gotten too deeply into what they would do if approved, because we are recommending denial based on those conclusions that were stated.
I see, thank you.
I have one question. So is what I understand is the special magistrate denied the separation anyway. So even if we were to grant it, isn't that kind of moot?
So I did place in there, should staff from testimony and different things that are heard decide that they want to give them the opportunity. I did provide conditions within the fact sheet. The first one being that they would have to meet the requirement. And so, a special use approval, if granted, does have a year of before you have to be in effect of that use. So should something change within the plaza and the there's no longer maybe a church located there, or they reapply at a later time for a variance, then it could be possible. But again, that's just a very broad out, and we wanted to provide stuff in the fact sheet,
Mhm.
should you want to, that we had some of those conditions. But again, we do not feel, we have concerns that those will not mitigate the impacts, and so we are recommending denial.
Okay, at this time, I'll close the planning commission hearing and open the public hearing. If the applicant or representative is present and would like to speak, they can. If you state your name and address for the record, please.
Brianna Pierre Francois, 3366 Avenue S Northwest, Winter Haven, Florida.
Thank you.
So I'm just here pretty much for a second chance. I'm a first-time business owner. When I originally leased the building, I didn't know that there were, steps to getting in. So that's when I reached out to different people around the area, and then I got in contact with Ms. Heather, and then she helped me step by step. But it's not about just the alcohol. I am an event center. I throw, I host birthday parties, I host graduations and anniversaries as well. So it would be great to have, being able to sell the alcohol or what and stuff like that. But I really would just want to just have a second chance to open as an event center as what it should be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody present wishing to speak for or against the case? If so, you can come to the podium. Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and reopen the planning commission hearing. Anybody have any questions? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to ask, has that location been used as a drinking establishment in the past?
Is my understanding at one point it was a hookah lounge. But I don't know how it's been vacant for a very long time, and I don't believe they had alcohol sales at that location.
Okay,
How long has the establishment been operating without proper licensing?
It was originally cited in February.
When did you get the application? Just wondering, like, the gap, like, just.
We received it April 11th.
Also still doesn't have a liquor license from years ago, drinking establishment.
Yeah, there's not a. Yeah, there's no cop in place, is there? Like the. License.
No, they do, they have no alcohol license from the state. They attempted to apply without zoning approval. So ABT, gave them time to address those deficiencies. Obviously, we did not sign off on it. And so they do not have a license and will not have a license unless this is approved, and we would sign at that time.
I'm going to make a motion to deny this case. All in favor, by saying aye. All opposed, same sign.
Yeah,
Second.
I'll second. I'll second. That's fine. All right, go ahead.
Sorry, all opposed, same sign. All in favor, sorry. Oh, all approved by saying aye. All opposed.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay.
Oh, no, I was just trying to move it forward. I think they needed.
Case number P-23-40, request by Craig Ober to rezone 3 parcels from Plan Unit Development PUD zoning district to single family residential large lot R1 zoning district. General location 1000 Lake Otis Drive Southeast. The area covered by this request is plus or minus 2.81 acres.
Good evening, Christopher Young, Senior Planner for the record. Here's the future land use map. You can see the 3 parcels outlined in the black and stripes. It is traditional neighborhood area. This is the zoning map, so you can see that the 3 parcels are grade for the PUD. And this is an aerial view of the 3 parcels. Directly, you have North Lake Otis Drive to the east and west. This is a view of the subject property from Lake Otis Drive. This is looking directly north. You can see it's abuts single family residential. This is looking to the east and to the subdivision. Looking south into Lake Otis. And then looking to the west, single family again. Some background. This is a request to rezone 3 parcels from PUD to R1 for the property located at Lake Otis Drive. The property is mostly vacant with the exception of a 1,796 square foot carriage house that was built in 1924. The petitioner intends to redevelop this property as a single family residence consistent with the R1 zoning district. The parcels were originally rezoned in 2014 from R1 and R2 to PUD in the anticipation of redevelopment of the site with 6 single family residential lots. That obviously never occurred, and no changes are proposed for the traditional neighborhood area future land use designation. Conclusion, staff review of these results yield the following conclusions. The R1 zoning is consistent with the surrounding properties and the proposed use is a single family residence. The requested R1 zoning reduces the maximum potential development intensity of the subject property from the adopted PUD. Therefore, there will be a reduction in potential demands for supporting infrastructure. Staff recommends, the Planning Commission recommend approval of this request and it's forwarding to the City Commission for action. And once again, I'll go ahead and take any questions that you might have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? No. We'll go ahead and close the Planning Commission meeting hearing and open the public hearing if the applicant or representative would like to speak. If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. For the record, my name is Shelton Rice. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Peterson and Myers, address 225 East Leonard Street, Lakeland, Florida. Today, I'm here on behalf of Craig Ober and his wife. They recently bought this property in May of 2023. Prior to that, the owner had gone through and obtained a PUD on the site. Their intent is, instead of developing a 6-lot, single-family residential community, to make this one parcel with 1 single-family home. Now, ultimately, they may maintain those 3 separate parcels, but the intent is to not develop this into anything other than 1 single-family residential home on this site. That requires a modification of the PUD, or really removal of the PUD and taking it back to the R1 zoning. Is consistent with what's around it. I appreciate staff's cooperation, assistance with this case, and I appreciate Mr. Young's analysis. We agree with everything he stated. Having said that, we'll be glad to answer any questions. We respectfully request a favorable vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody present wishing to speak for or against the case? Nope. Okay. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and reopen the Planning Commission hearing. Any questions, or would you like to entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion and, oh, go ahead. All right, I'll make a motion in favor of case number P-23-40, request by Craig Ober to rezone 3 parcels from plan unit development PUD zoning district to single family residential. Large lot R1 zoning district, the general location 1,000 Lake Otis Drive southeast. Area covered by this request is 2.81 more or less acres as presented by staff in the fact sheet.
Second.
All in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next we have cases P-23-41 and P-23-42, request by R.R. Heath Investment LLC to assign commercial future land use in commercial highway C3 zoning district to an annexed parcel. General location is 1100 Eloise Loop Road.
All right, Heather Reuter for the record. This is the future land use map. As you can see, this is an area that was recently annexed. The majority of the property is in unincorporated Polk County. But to the north and northeast, we do have residential low density with the Harmony subdivision. As you look at the zoning again, the zoning in the area that's in the city is plan unit development as part of the Harmony. And then this is the aerial. It is a triangular location. The aerial is a little dated because this is the location of the new roundabout that was constructed there at this intersection. And it does abut next to the CSX railroad tracks, as you can see, for its frontage. So it is a peculiar shaped lot, and its location next to railroad tracks and at this intersection is why the request is coming forward as it is. This is a view of the subject property. It's currently undeveloped and covered with some trees. As you look to the north, you see the Harmony subdivision that is under construction. As you look to the east, you can see part of the roundabout and then some single family that is in unincorporated Polk County. This is further down on the property. Looking to the east, the single family home that is on a large lot across Macon Road is heavily vegetated along the buffer of the roadway. And as you look to the south, again, you see those railroad tracks. Again, this is a request to assign commercial future land use and C3 zoning district to an annex parcel. The vacant parcel is located at 1100 Eloise Loop Road and totals 1.04 plus or minus acres. The parcel was annexed into the city May 22nd, 2023. The petitioner proposes to develop the property with personal storage, which is permitted by special use approval in the C3 zoning district. There is adequate capacity and public infrastructure to meet the maximum potential demands. Additionally, though, the petitioner's proposed use of personal storage would have minimal demands on public infrastructure. Staff's review of these requests yield the following conclusions. The assignment of commercial future land use and C3 zoning district is appropriate due to the subject property's location at the intersection of two collector roadways, and there's sufficient public infrastructure capacity to accommodate the maximum theoretical development under C3. Staff then therefore recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of these requests and their forwarding to the City Commission for final action. I stand for any questions.
No questions?
One, I think, so C3, as I recollect, that's kind of the minimum for personal storage, right? So that's why that was specifically selected.
That is, and is required by special use approval. So if both Planning Commission recommends approval and then City Commission adopts the C3, the applicant will have to come back for special use approval before this body. And at that time, we can address conditions for compatibility and architectural design and different things as we have in some other special uses for personal storage.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe commentary, but I think it'd probably be really useful for that. It just, not that it's horribly dense, but I worry about some of the other potential uses.
Yes.
But
so
kind of small for that.
Yeah, and that is ultimately staff's thought on the property as well. When you add in the other requirements for development, C3 standards, stormwater retention setbacks, it makes for something else that is permitted within the C3 zoning district pretty hard to obtain.
Right.
And if so, it'd be a very small scale version of it.
Okay, we'll close the Planning Commission hearing and open the public hearing. If the applicant or representative is present and would like to speak. If not, if there's anybody else that would like.
I'm sorry, I didn't stand up before.
That's fine. You can come on up to the podium. Oh, I'm sorry. If you'd state your name and address for the record, and Jordan will swear you in.
Rosemary Bailey. I live at 1160 Eloise Loop Road. And our property.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Ma'am.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Can I swear you in real quick?
I'm sorry, what?
Can I swear you in real quick?
Okay,
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth?
yes. Yes. Okay, where I live, 1160 Eloise Loop Road, according to the map, this triangle piece of property on Macon Road, right next to it where the extensive trees were. That's our property. We have about 7 acres there. We've gone through a lot with Harmony on Lake Eloise and the roundabout. For about 2 years, we've gone through a lot. This property has a lot of oak trees on it. It is also where, even though Harmony has built these 2 big retention ponds, and the road is all nice and it has culverts, but the water's going to drain to that section. There's a railroad. It can't go any further than the railroad. We have had problems with flooding on our end because there's nowhere for it to go. The railroad does not maintain the ditches alongside the railroad. And so I have always thought, okay, maybe they're just going to leave that alone and let it be just a place for the water to go. If it has asphalt on it and buildings on it, we're going to get the brunt of the water. There's also already an issue as you go around Eloise Loop Road, you go over the railroad, you go into this curve. We've had a dry year. We've not had to experience that road being flooded as we did last year. I don't see how putting a building there, it's not going to benefit, of course, anybody that lives around there. And the only reason they're doing it is because Harmony on Lake Eloise is going to have all of these homes. Yes, they're probably going to need some place to store stuff, but this is a small piece of property. It's not going to handle a whole lot. And the entrance to it with the roundabout there, with the railroad there, with Macon Road, people trying to get here, there. I just don't foresee it being a good use. Yes, I'm being a little selfish because I'd like it to just stay like it is. And I understand that if someone purchases a property, they want to be able to do something with it. But I just would really rather, and of course it won't happen, but for the city to buy it back and just leave it alone and let it be a watershed for that particular area. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to have a few words? Come on up.
I tuned this out.
Okay. If you just state your name and your address, and Jordan will swear you in.
Okay, Randy Bailey, 1160 Eloise Loop Road. That was my wife that was up here just now.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth?
Yes, I do. What my wife was talking about is we do have the property right up next to that. So whatever happens there affects us one way or the other. Now, if you can visualize, and those of you who have been over that road, you come over the railroad track and you come into the turnabout, that can get a little tricky sometimes. Now, if you go and put something there that people are going to have access to, they're going to be going and coming into that building for storage or whatever they use it for. So now you're going to have people coming over the track in vehicles. You're going to have people coming from the other end, coming from the West Lake Eloise side of it, coming down to that, circling around. And at some point in time, you're going to have some collisions on your hand. And not only that, but I've got to tell you, I pick up garbage up and down that road just about every day. People fly up and down it. They don't care about the speed signs. They don't care about anything. They throw their garbage out. I'm the guy that gets to go along there and pick it up. Anyway, just wanted to get my 2 cents in that I just think it's a dangerous place. to have a small building sitting in there or any kind of building sitting in there that people are going to have the opportunity to go and come from. Someone is going to get hurt. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? If not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and reopen the planning commission hearing. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Have we explored any way that the flooding could be handled so that it doesn't go?
I have some knowledge of the area. The county is actively working on a project along Eloise Loop Road because it does flood in that. I think it's an old grove there on the north side. And they have a project that's designed that'll route it to some of the regional flooding or the regional conveyance, which is right off Rifle Range, connects all the I believe it goes to the Teats Creek eventually. And yeah, it's an active project. It's just, it's not the city.
Yeah.
This is all county area and this is the last.
Oh, I
one of
see.
the
We
areas.
would have no way of intervening.
But it is an active project
Yeah.
that the county is doing presently.
No, so I was gonna speak to that. So this is county roadway, and so flooding within that area related to the roadway would be a project through Cook County. As far as the site itself, as well as the other developments in this area, they'll be responsible to take care of their stormwater on their site and not allow it to go off of their site. So they won't be creating any more, and everything that happens within that site will be contained through the proper mechanisms. So again, there wouldn't be any impacts to the area from that. As far as the traffic concerns that were spoken, again, the storage use is a very low trip count generator. Again, it's a smaller size parcel. So the amount of units that would be available is also going to be quite low. So it would be a very low traffic generator.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to prognosticate this exactly, but I could bet the county might have them enter off Megan, right? I mean, it really wouldn't, I don't know that it would make a lot of sense because it'd be so close to the
Yeah,
roundabout.
that'll be a determination through permitting to, which roadway that they would access from, but that would be a decision by Polk County.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion in favor of cases P-23-41 and P-23-42. Request by RRP Investments LLC to find commercial future land use to annex parcel and to assign commercial highway C3 zoning to an annex parcel. General location 1100 Eloise Loop Road. The area covered by this request is 1.04 more or less acres as presented in the fact sheet and by staff.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, case number P-23-43, request by Carlton Properties LLC to rezone a parcel from single-family residential small lot R2 zoning district to multifamily residential low density R3 zoning district, general location 3257 Old Eagle Lake Road. Sean, are you-
Sean Byers, I'll be presenting this request. What we have on the screen is currently the future land use map. It does depict the properties being residential, low density. And it is generally located on the north side of or north or west side of Old Eagle Lake Road. And I'm gonna say probably roughly half mile to the north of State Road 540. Again, here's the zoning map. Property is presently zoned R2, single family. It is a adjacent zoning to the west of PUD, again for a single family subdivision. And to the north is an older single family area that was currently in Polk County. Here's the aerial map. Again, the property is vacant. There are a handful of houses on the property. And again, to the north, we have a single family residential to the north and west. There's a single family residence to the south. And then we have wetlands, woodlands, and a railroad track to the east and southeast. This is a view of the property from Old Eagle Lake Road. As you can see, there is one of the houses there in the foreground. And the property does contain a mixture of some trees, grassed areas, and there is actually a pond kind of straight back from where I have the car parked here on the left side. To the north, again, we have some trees. Behind that is a mixture of single family, and there is a manufactured home park just north beyond that as well. To the east, again, is woodlands, and then railroad tracks behind the trees. And to the south, we do have a large lot with a single family residence. And again, to the west, I don't have a picture, but it is the Normandy Heights subdivision. A little background, the area subject to this request contains approximately 21.68 acres. Consists of pasture land and 2 residences. Current R2 zoning was assigned to the property in 2022. That did follow its annexation into the city. Petitioner is seeking R3 zoning or develop approximately 187 townhouses on the property. However, based on the maximum density of 10 units per acre permitted under the R3 zoning, a maximum of 217 units could potentially be developed. This represents an increase of 109 units over the maximum number of potential units under R2. A little more background, the petitioner's request does result in an increase in potable water and wastewater demand and a slight reduction in potential peak hour trips accessing the surrounding roadway network. At this time, sufficient potable water, wastewater, and roadway capacity is available to support the maximum development potential of the subject property under the requested zoning designation. Therefore, staff's conclusions are the following. The requested R3 zoning district will serve as a transition between the single family uses located to the north and west of the subject property and the higher intensity uses located along the US Highway 17 corridor, as well as an active railroad track located adjacent to Old Eagle Lake Road. The R3 zoning district is consistent with the intensity of the Garden Mobile Home Village manufactured home park, which has a net density of 8.3 units per acre, which is located northeast of the property. And the requested R3 zoning is consistent with the residential low density future land use assigned to the property. This request will result in potential increase in utility demand and students attending public schools. At this time, the petitioner's request will not result in supporting utility or roadway facilities to fall below adopted levels of service. And staff has reviewed the proposed zoning map amendment and determined it will fall within the limited exemption to section 14 of chapter 2023-304 laws of Florida. Therefore, staff does recommend the planning commission recommend approval of this request and is forwarding to the city commission for final action.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
Is there going to be any sort of requirement for like a separation or like a hedge or the general buffer between the lower density? And that's obviously I'll say that the higher density is a little different, but lower density, I know they're going to want some sort of separation, right?
The city's landscape code would require a buffer between the single family uses. The other buffer will be required again along the fronting road, Old Eagle Lake Road.
Okay.
There'll likely be buffers on all sides.
Okay, we'll close the planning commission hearing and open the public hearing if the applicant or representative is present and wishes to speak. And if not, if there's anybody wishing to speak. Okay, seeing as there are none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and reopen the planning commission hearing. Commissioners, do you have any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I would like to motion for the approval of case number P 23-43, request by Crawford Properties LLC to rezone a partial for single family residential small lot R2 zoning district multifamily residential low density R3 zoning district, general location 3257 Old Eagle Lake Road. The area covered by this request is 21.68 plus or minus acres.
I would second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Case numbers P 23 44 and P 23 45 request by Telecorp Group LLC to assign residential low-density future land use and plan unit development PUD zoning to an annexed parcel. General location, the parcel is generally located 600 plus minus feet north of Thompson Nursery Road and 3,000 plus minus feet west of US Highway 27.
I again will be presenting this request. The map we see on the screen is the future land use map. The property located generally surrounding it to the east and west is located in the city and is got a designation of residential low density with pockets of conservation scattered throughout the property. To the southeast, there is a small area of commercial future land use. Again, here's the zoning map. Again, the surrounding properties, at least in the city limits, are currently a PUD and are currently covered by ordinance O-22-39. And here's the aerial. Again, it's a dated picture, but most of the site has been in some state of development for the last, I want to say, year to 18 months. And I'll show that in some pictures here in a minute. But this property is kind of hard to depict on the ground when you're out there in the field. So I will attempt to show it to you a little bit. This is a picture of the property. I'm standing on what's generally known as Conservation Way. It leads to a group of homes that are located to the north in unincorporated Polk County. And this property was a small portion of a larger piece that's currently in the county. Again, this is looking to the north. As you can see that it is in a partial state of development. Development has come to a stop at some point in the last year. But generally they've installed curbs and some drainage infrastructure as well as some very limited base material for the roadways. To the east, we have a undeveloped property, and then further behind that, some wetlands and woodlands. And to the south is additional phases of Preserve at Lake Ashton South. It's currently in a halted state of development. A little background, the subject parcel is generally located 600 feet north of Thompson Nursery Road, 3,000 feet west of US Highway 27. The property does contain approximately 2.58 acres and consists of partially developed land. Parcel was annexed into the city on May 22nd, 2023. Tisher proposed to develop the parcel along with 3 adjoining parcels previously annexed into the city approximately 20 years ago, with 256 townhouses and customary amenities. This project is a phase of the larger Preserve at Lake Ashton development covered by a PUD originally approved in 2018 and last amended on July 25th, 2022 by ordinance O-22-39. Preserve at Lake Ashton extends across parcels lying both inside the city and unincorporated Polk County. Portion line within the city is approved for up to 1,600 attached and detached residential units and up to 137,000 square feet of commercial space. Given development on the subject parcel has been previously contemplated on the concept plan, though under Polk County's jurisdiction, staff proposes to simply extend the PUD and provisions contained in ordinance O-22-39 from the surrounding parcels onto the subject parcel. Therefore, in conclusion, staff has the following. The requested low density future land use and companion plan unit development zoning district are consistent with the respective designations on the surrounding parcels, both inside the city and in the remaining unincorporated areas. This request will not result in any additional demands in supporting infrastructure, supporting utility, roadway, or public school infrastructure. And staff has reviewed the proposed future land use map, zoning map amendments, and determined them to fall within the limited exception to section 14 of chapter 2023-304 laws of Florida. Therefore, staff does recommend the planning commission recommend approval of these requests. And they're forwarding the city commission for final action.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
Maybe a clarification, looking at that aerial, it appears there may or may not be a right of way, but it doesn't look like the access follows it. Meaning like, and not for them, but to get back to the homes that are back behind it, right? And, is there a way out if
There is, it's awfully hard to actually picture that on the ground. But there is a right of way that's been created.
okay,
I would say the current path is maybe the best way to describe it or drive. Probably is not falling within that right now, but at some point as this surrounding area develops, that should become more defined. Leading back to those properties.
okay. Is there, I guess I'm just wondering. I don't know. Is there a remedy?
There is a requirement in the PUD that when the developer develops this property, that he provides access to those
Okay.
parcels in unincorporated Polk County on his newly developed roadway.
Okay, perfect. That's where I was going with it. Thanks.
We'll go ahead and close the planning commission hearing and open the public hearing. If the applicant is present and would like to speak. If not, if there's anybody that would like to speak for or against, you can come on up. If you'd state your name and address, please.
Yeah, hi, my name is Steve Martin. My address is 127 Conservation Way. I was not sworn in, by the way. Didn't know I'd be talking.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth?
Yes. I own the property at the end of Conservation Way. It's a 32-acre parcel. And the original design with that development moved our easement or right of way over to the left. It moved the access, this road goes to my electric gate. It moved the access to my property 200 feet to the west. So if this right of way moves to the left, like is already planned with the construction that stopped for some reason, I don't have access to my gate. I got to move my gate. That's a lot of money. The other thing is where it butts up against my property, they took the easement from 20 some feet down to like 12 or 15 feet. So we can't get a truck in there, which we need to.
I will say that that specific area that you're questioning was approved, it's under Polk County's jurisdiction, and they approved that. And that's.
It was, yeah, we never had a voice
Yeah.
on that. We could never, and I called the county and talked to them about it, and they said, yeah, it's a problem. It's supposed to be wider. And I talked to the developer, and the developer said, no problem, we're gonna move your gate, we'll pay for all of it, not a problem. I don't know what the status of that is, but nobody ever asked me about moving my gate. I never had a chance to comment on it.
Yeah, so I will, as far as the status of the development right now, I don't know what the status of the greater reserve at Lake Ashton is. I do know this parcel is subject to, tonight, they were talking about subject to a project that appears to be moving forward for some townhouses. Unfortunately, with regards to as we move to the north up towards, where Conservation Way is going to tie in. Right now, the city does not have jurisdiction over that matter.
Right.
So, we could certainly communicate that with the overall developer once we can reestablish those lines of communication. Right now, we don't really have those lines of communication.
By this
Yeah.
drawing, it looks like it looks like this property is right on my easement, right on my right of way. So,
Yeah, the right of way should be. This is the edge of that proposed right of way.
If you go back a few slides, you can see it, Sean. can kind of faintly see where that right of way for the new
Right.
road is going up. And I don't know if it curves back to the east
I
or
think
not, or if it
believe
goes straight up.
I believe it goes straight north.
So. What happens to my right of way?
Well, again, it's subject to Polk County's jurisdiction, so I really can't answer that question.
I think that's what he was mentioning, where they're going to be required to rebuild
So-
that.
Build it.
So they're required, as they build this,
Yeah.
this subdivision in phases, they are required to construct a new roadway that will provide you access to your property. What we can do is certainly follow up with Polk County as those phases move through the development process to make sure that that access is maintained. And I would think that if your gate needed to be moved, that the developer would be on the hook for doing that. It's his project.
Yeah, well, he said he would. But you know how that goes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? If not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and reopen the planning commission hearing. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I do. Would it be possible to hold on this until that matter gets clarified? Because once we approve it, then he doesn't have.
No, he does, they are required for the zoning ordinance to provide access to this gentleman. It may be years before the future phases of this project are developed. We don't know the timing. We only know that this particular phase is ready to move forward. And so I think it would be inappropriate to pause on this at this point. He still has access. He still has an easement down to this new right of way that's being developed to get in and out of this property. And so I think it would be inappropriate to pause at this time. The developer is required to maintain an access for him.
The developer, not the county.
It's part of the zoning. It's a condition in the PUD that he must maintain access to the properties to the rear of this project.
And that is clear.
And that is clear.
I do want to add, it is a separate developer than the group that's brought this forward tonight. So it's a separate developer.
Yeah, the individual phases are being developed by different builders and developers. So
Okay, thank
the
you.
phases that are closer to this gentleman's property, we don't know the timing on that. It may be a decade before those develop. So it would be inappropriate to hold this particular phase up, waiting for an answer for what's going to happen back there and exactly where that access point is going to be.
Right.
But once it gets to that portion where he needs access, that portion is going to be required for them to develop that out.
Absolutely.
Okay. Right, thank you.
Any other statement, question?
No.
I'll entertain a motion if none.
I'd like to make a motion in favor of case number P 23-44, request by Telecom Corp. and Telecom Group LLC. To reassign residential low density future land use to an annex parcel general location. The parcel is generally located 600 plus or minus feet north of Thompson Nursery Road and 3,000 plus or minus feet west of US Highway 27. The area covered by the request is 2.58 plus or minus acres.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Approved, motion carries. Okay.
I was just saying, yeah, one comment is that once it starts moving, just make sure that they actually, they're gonna have to build some sort of temp something to get back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And make sure the radius is worked so we can access them.
Okay, moving on. Case number P 23-09 S. Request by Tim Campbell for special use approval for personal storage in the commercial highway C3 zoning district. General location south of Motor Pool Road, approximately 400 feet east of 8th Street Northwest. And Chris,
Good evening. Chris Young, senior planner for the record again. So this is actually, if everybody's familiar, this is actually the parcel that was identified in your staff reports. Is a larger 20-acre parcel that currently houses the Home Depot off of 8th Street and Avondale Boulevard. The portion that we are concerned with at this moment is the northern portion. This is only approximately 4.5 acres. And you can see it's hashed a little bit darker to the north. Here we can see the large Home Depot shopping center. To the north, we have Lakeside Cemetery. And to the rear, we have multifamily, or to the east, we have multifamily development. To the west, we have an O'Reilly's and a Dollar General. This is a view of the subject property. Here again, this is only the open area, the grassed open area at this moment. And it's accessed off this primary roadway here. Everybody can see that. So this is a view to the north. This is to the cemetery. This is a view to the east. This is the multifamily development. View to the south, the Home Depot shopping center. And a view to the west. Here we have the Dollar General, the O'Reilly's, and then their access off to 8th beyond these trucks. Some background, this is a special use request for personal storage in the commercial highway C3 zoning district. For the property located south of Motor Pool Road, approximately 400 feet east of 8th Street. The area associated with this request is vacant. Based on the proposed use, minimal impacts on supporting infrastructure are expected as personal storage represents a reduction in the public infrastructure demands from an active commercial uses permitted within the C3 zoning district. Staff's review yields the following conclusions. The development of this property for personal storage instead of other more intense uses permitted within the C3 zoning district will decrease demands on public infrastructure. There is currently a lack of personal storage facilities located in the northern portion of the city. The addition of personal storage on the subject property will be a supporting use for the surrounding established neighborhoods. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve this request subject to the conditions published within the agenda packet. Here is a concept plan. So we can see that their access is off of 8th Street into the larger portion. Here would be the storage, parking, and the associated driveway navigation or configuration. And once again, here's an aerial view of the property, and I'll stand for any questions you may have.
commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? Seeing none, if the applicant, I'm going to close the planning commission hearing and open the public hearing if the applicant or representative would like to speak. State your name and address, please.
Good evening. For purposes of your record, my name is Tim Campbell with the law firm of Clark Campbell Lancaster Workman and Aerith, 500 South Florida Avenue, Lakeland, Florida. I'm here representing Atlantic Development, who is proposing the personal storages facility. As you heard, Chris did a very good job. This proposed facility is on 8th Street Northwest and Motor Pool Road. You heard Chris advise you that the access is from the access parcel portion of the parcel to 8th Street Northwest. The property, unlike what we discussed earlier for another project, already has highways, commercial, C3 zoning, on which there is a bevy of different commercial retail uses that are allowed there as we speak. This site is immediately north of the existing Home Depot, east of the O'Reilly and the Dollar General stores. Matter of fact, as you saw, it's tucked, and you can see from the screen, it's tucked behind those stores as it relates to a view from 8th Street Northwest, south of the Lakeside Cemetery and west of the existing Ridgewood Apartments. As Chris advised you, there is a need in this area for additional personal storage facilities. That's part of why this developer sought a site that worked well for the proposed use. And as your staff noted, And as from my experience of working with other personal storage facilities, this type of business generates about the least amount of impacts of any use you could propose within commercial highway C3 districts. It generates much less noise, trips. The trips on a personal storage facility are very low, or other impacts. So as compared to the existing commercial C3, the other allowances within that district, this is a very, very low impact. There's no access to Motor Pool Road, and it's an ideal location for this proposed use. Also, this facility, it's, the modern facilities. A lot of people think it's this old self-storage and all the external doors. That's not how these facilities are constructed and developed anymore. All of the access to units for this facility, it's a modern concept. And so all the access will be internally so that you don't have anymore a lot of the external impacts and noise of loading, unloading. There will be a loading, and I think you saw in the site plan, Chris, if you don't, perfect. Thank you very much. So that's the side facing Home Depot where there will be loading and unloading. The parking and the office entrance is there on the west side, right behind the O'Reilly and the Dollar General store. And so impacts to other across Motor Pool Road or to the apartments to the east will be minimal, if any, as it relates to this development. Also, your staff has proposed, and you'll see in your conditions, some protective facade elevations and construction material requirements that provide additional protection and buffer to people on each of the directions of each of the elevations of this proposed use. And so it will provide better buffer and protection of Motor Pool Road to the property owners around it and to the 8th Street frontage. With that, I stand available for any questions you have and would respectfully request your favorable recommendation of our request. And finally, respectfully request an opportunity to respond to any public comment regarding our application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's anybody present wishing to speak for or against the case. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and reopen the planning commission hearing. Commissioners, any questions?
I have a question. So the only access that's planned will only be from 8th Street, correct?
Correct. So that's the main access that they're proposing at this time. There is an access to this parcel off of Motor Pool Road, so they could potentially use that at some point in the future. This is, any new commercial development will have to go through the site plan process. So there will be full site plan drawn up to include buffering, landscaping from neighboring roads and residential uses to the east.
Any more questions? Not.
What's the max height in this area? I'm trying to remember.
It's 65 feet.
Okay, and I think, because I think they're proposing a 3-story, that'd be fairly similar to what the Home Depot frontage would look like.
Correct.
That's what I was just trying to think of how that would look.
Right. So, and I don't have a map or the image of that, but basically, it would obviously be equivalent to what the hotel is across the other
Okay.
side of 8th Street, if you're familiar with this region.
Yes, okay, perfect.
I'll make a motion to approve case number P-23-09-S. Request by Tim Campbell for special use approval for personal storage in the commercial highway C3 zoning district, general location south of Motor Pool Road, approximately 400 feet east of 8th Street Northwest. The area covered by this request is 4.5 plus or minus acres as presented in the fact sheet.
Second.
All in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, board members and staff.
Thank you. Okay, moving along, case number P-23-10-S, request by Muscox LLC for special use approval for a large-scale drinking establishment located in the commercial heavy C-4 zoning district. General location 299 6th Street Southwest. The area covered by this request is 1.03 plus minus acres.
Heather Reuter for the record. This is the zoning map of the location. The subject property there is in the hatched area. Again, it is in commercial heavy C4 and adjacent to Highway 17. There is other C4 properties located to the north, south and east. And then we have MX zoning district as you head towards the west. This is an aerial property or photo of the property. As you can see, it was the former Jody's feed store and ancillary parking that is subject to the request. This is a view of the subject property. As you look to the east, you have Highway 17 and an auto parts store located in that building. As you look to the north, there is a mixture of C4 uses that are automotive businesses and other heavier retail type uses through this area. And as you look to the south, there's some other auto repair and auto body uses. Again, this is a request for special use approval for a large scale drinking establishment located in C4. It will be located at 299 6th Street Southwest, and it consists of a 5,310 square foot commercial building built in 1927. The applicant proposes to repurpose the existing building and property, which was previously used as Jody's Farm and Garden Supply, as the feedery, which will contain a craft distillery, food vendors, and outdoor covered patios. On-site alcohol consumption will be a part of the craft distillery business, and it is envisioned customers will be able to move freely between the multiple vendors and within the outdoor patio areas. This does meet required separations from schools and churches. And in conclusion, the location of the feedery along US Highway, that should be 17, adjacent to the southwest portion of the city's downtown core, is consistent with long-term goals to grow the social, cultural, and business core of the city and the city's envisioned growth of the downtown core. Minimum offsite impacts are expected as a result of this request, and staff does recommend the Planning Commission approve this request. This is the site plan. I know it's a little fuzzy seeing it on the screen, but as you can see, this is the plans for the property of repurposing the building and adding parking for the location.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
I do. What is the amount of the parking?
The amount of the parking, they'll have to meet the required parking minimums as provided through the code, either by meeting the parking minimums or through an alternative parking analysis. So the exact number has not been determined at this time, but the parking minimum requirement for a large scale drinking establishment is 1 per 70 gross square foot.
Okay. A second question. Where is the closest residential? Would that be behind this area?
Yes, so if you cross to the west, across Farnell is the MX zoning, which allows for a mixture of single family, multifamily, and some light commercial uses. Immediately in the block over here. Not picking up for me. Okay, immediately to the west there is a mixture of single family homes. I don't know if any duplexes are directly in that parcel, but then as you head more west along 7th Street, that is our R4, which is our medium density multifamily residential. And so you have a mixture of office uses within there and single family and multifamily.
One more question.
Okay.
Have the Winter Haven Police worked out a plan?
Yes, as required, the applicant did submit a security plan, and per your fact sheet in your agenda packet, the security plan has been approved by the chief of police.
And they are comfortable with this size of place in that location?
Again, the security plan has been approved by the chief of police.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. So the parking, is that gonna be the majority of the parking be facing towards Highway 17, where they be entering, exiting out of?
Yeah, so sorry, you see the arrows, there's a entrance off of Bates and then the entrance off of Farnell with I think it'll be angled parking that is located, so they'll exit only out on Farnell. They wouldn't enter onto there. So the majority of the entrance will actually be off of Bates. There's a large cuts right now onto 17. And the proposal is to close those off for parking as well as location for vendors in that area.
So, given that some of that traffic will be bleeding into a residential, area, what are the proposed hours of operation for the establishment?
I'll defer to the applicant on that, but I would also like to point out that the MX zoning district that is to the west, while there are residential uses there, that is by our code defined as a commercial zoning district and not as residential.
Okay. More questions? At this time, we'll close the planning commission hearing and open the public hearing if the applicant or a representative is present. If you please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Ron Scarpa. I reside at 1199 Washington Avenue in Winter Park, Florida. I'm a former Winter Haven resident. I'm here on behalf of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We've been working very closely with staff to address parking and noise and all the needs in the area. So I'll let you guys talk through it. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you.
Okay, thank you.
I,
Hang on just a minute.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
If he has questions for Heather, you can let him.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Lang. You can come back up. I apologize. Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought here.
I got one while you get that together. What are the proposed hours of operation for this location?
Well, it's going to be a market, so it will start, we'll go into the evening hours and we're gonna meet whatever the city code requires. The actual, it says large scale drinking operation. We're not actually opening a bar, but in the back of our building, there's gonna be a distiller and they will serve spirits and we'll have beer and wine on site as well.
You are not serving any alcohol within the,
Yes, we are serving
Establishment.
alcohol, sir.
you what?
We will be serving alcohol there, but there will be food as well as alcohol.
Okay, will there be a music venue? Is that one of the draws for this?
We're trying to, and again, we've worked with staff to try to create some, again, we're on Highway 17, so it's not like it's a silent place as a music venue, and that's not the intention. It's cottage industry and the craft industry for small businesses. We've done something similar in the Orlando area. They call it cottage industry because it helps spur small businesses. And for example, the project that's still going in Orlando that I've been involved with, there's cheese shops, food, most of them serve beer and wine, but it's not like a bar per se. We have a craft pizza person who's interested in the space and around the front of the building. The staff have any more photos of the elevation for the
No, sir, they're
project?
not included in there.
Okay. We've created a very nice, we're trying to do a family environment for seating out front, in the front of the building and even a little bit on the side of the building. Directly behind us, we've actually acquired a couple properties on the corner of on Avenue C and Farnell, just as a buffer as well. So we have a body shop on one side, automotive on the other, and then Highway 17 in the front. So we're trying to create some sort of ambient space for people to sit and be with their families, yet still buffer them from the traffic on 17.
We have not seen the security plan with the police. We usually have seen those in past years.
No, sir, we do not provide those with the special use approvals, as that is a security matter and something for the police to review and approve.
Okay, so that has changed then from what
We
it was originally.
When it was first adopted back in 18, we did include it for maybe the first 2 requests and have not since then.
Okay, thank you. Can you discuss the plan a little bit? What are your responsibilities as a drinking establishment in terms of maintaining proper decor at the close of your operation and in your parking lot?
Well, staff provided the map of parking and we have provided adequate parking per code. Obviously, this is a place of business, so there will be maintenance, people that are cleaning, maintenance to maintain the site. And obviously, it's going to look, I can assure you, it's going to look better than what it's looked like the last few years, which has been, a really empty space. But we plan on landscaping it, and it's a place of business. In order for it to thrive, we need to maintain it. If we want you and your families to go there, we got to keep it clean and make sure that, again, it's not a bar. It's a little more than that. It's food and crafts and a place to enjoy a beverage, whether it's alcohol or something else.
And I
Okay,
think,
thank you.
Yeah.
if I could, Madam Chair, maybe just provide a little bit of context. I think there might be a little bit of confusion with the semantics of using the term large scale alcoholic beverage establishment. That's where our code calls it. And why they have to go through the special use approval is because within this facility, they want the folks that purchase a craft beer or a spirit to be able to walk around the facility. So go from vendor to vendor, buy a piece of pizza or a sandwich or cheese or whatever it is,
candle,
whatever,
for that matter.
whatever it is
Yeah.
the vendors, have in there. So like the applicant said, it's not necessarily a bar or a nightclub in the sense that you think of a bar or a nightclub. Think more like if you've been to the Joinery in Lakeland. It's a facility where you have multiple vendors selling food or candles or whatever, but at the same time, you can purchase a beer or a spirit and walk around the facility. And so our code requires them to go through the approval as a large scale drinking establishment as a special use.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
I raised these questions because we have had problems in the past with some organizations, especially at the close time. But it sounds like this has been thought out pretty well.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll go ahead and entertain if anybody would like to speak for or against. You can, if you'll come up to the podium and state your name and address, and if you have not been sworn in, Jordan will swear you in. Excuse me?
I was sworn in,
Okay, your name and address, please.
Milton Smith, 1781st Street.
Thank you.
I just want to know the square footage of the building.
The building is 5,310 square feet.
5,000,
Yes, sir.
and we don't know the parking spaces yet.
We do not have an exact count at this time because I haven't went through site plan.
All right.
Yes, you can, yes. It's also, Milton, it's also online, the agenda packet or Eric has a printout of it. There we go. I was gonna say. I can email you a copy too.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against? If not, we'll close the public hearing and reopen the planning commission hearing. Anybody would like to?
I'd like to make a motion in favor of case number P-23-10-S. Request by Muskox LLC for a special use approval for a large-scale drinking establishment located in the commercial heavy C4 zoning district, general location 2996 Sixth Street Southwest, area covered by the request is 1.03 more or less acres with a correction of 27 to 17 in the conclusion. And as within
Second. All in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, moving on, case number P 23 46 request by Down Around the Dairy Down LLC to rezone 4 parcels and a portion of a parcel from commercial heavy C4 zoning district to commercial downtown C1 zoning district. Parcels generally located along the western frontage of Fifth Street Southwest, south of Avenue C Southwest and north of Avenue E Southwest. And just for the record, I must abstain from voting on case P 23 46 due to a conflict of interest.
Heather Reuter for the record. This is the future land use map. As you can see, the subject property there is outlined in black. This area is primary activity center and is surrounded completely by that. As you look at the zoning map, as you can see, the subject properties are C4. The requested C1 is located to the east across the DOT pond. This is considered a natural expansion of the downtown core to this area. As you look at the aerial map, you can see that the properties have several buildings that are already developed on the site. It is located along Fifth Street Southwest, next to it, the DOT pond for Highway 17. And there are some automotive uses to the west and north. This is a view of part of the subject property. It's very hard to get all of the parcels, but as you can see, there are some existing commercial buildings located through there, a little bit more of the subject property. And as you look to the north, the remaining stretch of that frontage. As you look to the east is the DOT pond, and across there you see the construction of the Bowen Yard and also an office building located there in its parking lot. As you look to the northeast, you can then again see more of Bowen Yard and Soci Market is located there at the corner. A little bit of a background. This is a request to rezone 4 parcels from C4 to C1. The subject property includes 4 buildings that were built between 1950 and 1973. The petitioner intends to redevelop this property with uses and development standards consistent with C1. However, no specific uses or plans have been determined at this time. The extension of the C1 zoning district to the west is consistent with the city's envisioned goals for this corridor, as the primary activity center future land use designation will remain. The maximum development potential is unchanged. Upon review of this request, the following conclusions have been reached. This request represents a natural expansion of the downtown core toward Highway 17. The rezoning of the subject property will allow the proposed redevelopment to be consistent with development to the east as it relates to development standards. And this request supports land use concepts outlined in the FDOT's US 17 corridor study, and the maximum development potential is unchanged. Therefore, there is no increase in potential infrastructure demands beyond what is currently allowed. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve this request and is forwarding to the City Commission for final action. Stand for any questions.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay, at this time, we'll close the Planning Commission hearing and open the public hearing. If the applicant or representative is present and would like to speak. Okay, if there's anybody present that wishes to speak for or against. Seeing as none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, reopen the Planning Commission hearing, and I'll give any questions. If none, we'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to motion in favor of case number P 23 46 requested by Down Around the Dairy Down LLC to rezone 4 parcels and a portion of a parcel for commercial highway C4 zoning district to commercial downtown C1 zoning district. General location parcels generally located along the west frontage of Fifth Street Southwest, south of Avenue C Southwest, and north of Avenue E Southwest. The area covered by this request is 1.47 plus or minus 8.
I would second it.
All in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Case number P 23 47, request by William Wright Sparling Trust to rezone a parcel from single family residential small lot R2 zoning district to mixed use MX zoning district. General location 1103 Fifth Street Southeast.
All right, Heather Reuter for the record. This is actually, it's the future land use map. It is mislabeled. I apologize for that. So this is future land use map. The area is designated as primary activity center. As you can see, the properties to the north and west are, and as you to the east, the frontage along Avenue K is primary activity center. And then it transitions along that alley to traditional neighborhood area. So this parcel mostly aligns, as you can see above, north of that alley, and kind of goes along with the frontage along Avenue K. As you look at the zoning map, again, this is currently zoned R2, but there is MX in those areas to the northwest and to the east. This is an aerial map. As you can see, to the north is a former single-family home that was transitioned to a current commercial office. As you look to the west, it is a medical commercial complex, so with a mixture of units, single family to the south and to the east. This is a view of the subject property. It is a single family home on the property. As you look to the north, again, there's the single family home that has been converted to an office use. As you look to the east, there's the unimproved alley area and single family residential. And as you look to the south, single family residential fronts on this roadway. Again, this is a request to rezone a parcel from R2 to MX. The property contains 0.21 plus or minus acres and a 1,792 square foot single family home constructed in 1966. The petitioner is requesting this change for the purpose of allowing the existing single family home to be redeveloped into a mixed use building with an approximate 832 square foot office on the first floor and a residential unit on the second floor. Additionally, the proposed plans are projected to create a de minimis impact to public infrastructure. However, a final concurrency determination will be made at the time the property receives site plan approval and is developed. Staff's review yields the following conclusions. The requested MX zoning is consistent with the MX zoning assigned to the properties located to the north and west, as well as the mixed-use development pattern of the surrounding area. The proposed use of the property as a mixed-use office residence is what is envisioned in the MX zoning district and is consistent with the primary activity center future land use designation. And the proposed plans are projected to create a de minimis impact to public infrastructure. However, again, final concurrency will be determined at the time of site plan. Staff recommends the planning commission approve this request in its wording to the city commission for action. I stand for any questions.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the planning commission hearing and open the public hearing.
Good evening, for the record, Sarah Case. I'm with Next Level Planning and Permitting. So before you, obviously, is this application. And our intent is actually to have a mixed use development with a office on the bottom floor and a residential unit on the top. That's really urban planning, with the concept of a mom and pop, the general store that was always, you have your business downstairs, you live upstairs. If we could go back to the land use map where you could see, we're actually asking for an increase of about 28 feet. Encroaching, that's different. So you can see that the corridor has already been labeled commercial. We are asking for a little bit of an encroachment into a residential neighborhood, but it is at 28 feet. We do feel that this is de minimis. I feel like the staff report said that as well. I'll stand for any questions that you have. We really feel like this is not going to be a great impact on the existing neighborhood or the area itself. So I'll stand for any questions that you have. Thank you.
So you're saying there's gonna be a residential slash business at the bottom, residential at the top.
I think I heard you.
So you're saying that this is gonna be a residential slash business with a business at the bottom and resident at the top?
So we don't have plans at this time, but what we are thinking is having some kind of office on the bottom and the residence on top. Because right now it is a residence, right? But with the pandemic and everything, people are working from home right now. But we wanted to be able to have the opportunity to have an office there on the bottom and then the residential on the top.
Is it gonna maintain a look of a residence or?
It's gonna look exactly like you see on the picture.
Okay, there's anybody here that'd like to speak for or against? You can come on up to the podium if you state your name and your address, please.
My name's Tom Larry. I live at 1201 Fifth Street. We've lived at this area for 19 years. We picked this area because it's a quiet residential area, despite having a high school east of us and Walmart. South of us, it still is a nice, quiet residential area. The property proposed that was mentioned, there's nothing about parking, increase of any type of activity in the area. I can't stress enough how Winter Haven is an excellent place to live. And this neighborhood is one of the reasons Winter Haven is an excellent place to live. We're a neighborhood, we all know each other, which in a lot of times people don't even know who lives next door to them. We like to keep it that way. We see that if this is granted, it'll be like a domino effect. Then the next place, well, next door, well, we've granted this one, we can let the next one go. But also the fact of the impact of any traffic or any type of business activity there. Our front lawns all abut each other all the way up. Stand at the bottom of the street, look all the way up. So I'm just concerned it's gonna affect our quality of life. Even being 3 doors down. There's plenty of commercial area that's not being used in Winter Haven right now. I'd like to keep our residential area a residential area. That's why we moved to Winter Haven. That's why we love it here. Thank you.
Thank you. You can come on up.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Boudreau. I live on I-10 Avenue L with my wife. And we moved down here about 6 years ago. And we picked this area because of the, as Tom said, it's a special neighborhood. Everybody watches out for each other. I just see that changing that beautiful home into what they want to is going to be detrimental to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tristan Rabb. I moved here about 16 years ago on 535 Avenue M Southeast. My wife and I been here for a while. We too would just like to ask the board or commission to consider the encroachment that is, if this house goes to mixed use, what about the next one further down, the next one, the next one, the next one? One of our concerns as well is the foot traffic and or how many people are going to be here at this property or at this business at one time? How many parking spots it's going to take up or indoor use? And our concern is that there's a lot of foot traffic there now, just being a thoroughfare for pedestrians. So we'd just like you guys to consider that as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sorian also. My name is Barb Lamas. I live at 1203 Fifth Street, Southeast Winter Haven.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth?
I do. I'm in agreement with my neighbors. I'd like to keep the residential, and hopefully keep foot traffic and just strangers throughout the neighborhood again. So if we can keep it residential, we'll be happy. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Natalie Rankin, 1105 Fifth Street, Southeast.
Thank you.
I live next door to this property.
Can I swear you in real quick? Oh, no, you're fine. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth?
Yes. Yes, I live next door to this property for the past 5 years. It's a very quiet neighborhood. I have my grandparents living there. We choose this area because of the quietness. We've been living there. We live as one. We look out for each other. Presently, I'm gonna also concern about the foot traffic and the traffic that's gonna be next door. I'm afraid it may become a nuisance. So I would like for it to be remain as a residential only.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak for or against?
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to address some of those concerns. It is a change of use, but we are not changing the home, the structure, nothing there. We are asking for a mixed-use development only because that's what we needed to have, an office downstairs and a residence upstairs. We couldn't do that in a residential district, and we could not do that in a commercial district. So what we're asking to do is keep the residence what it is, okay, I'm sorry, the structure what it is, and allow a commercial business downstairs, which the footprint is 900 square feet. So it's not like we're having a bunch of traffic coming in with commercial uses and people and all of that. This is urban planning at its finest. That is what we're asking. We're asking to take the structure that is today, right now, and take the bottom floor to become an office, and the resident can live above and work below. That's all we're asking for. That's all we're asking.
What type of business is this mixed use going to be used for?
So I did say that we are not sure, but we are trying to attract an insurance agency, something like that. Okay, someone that works from home. The pandemic brought all that to us. The home is in a trust right now. I don't think I should.
That wasn't for you.
Timer.
That wasn't for you.
So the home is in a trust right now. And I'm the authorized representative. And I mean, I really want to express to all the neighbors, we're not trying to make this commercial where all of this commercial square footage, people can come in, the traffic and all that. We're just asking to utilize the existing structure as a non-residential bottom floor and someone to live above. And that is urban planning to the finest. It's not bringing in traffic. We're not increasing trips. You know, an average daily trip for a single family home is 7.92. If you have a commercial office or an insurance agency, it's not even that much, right? So I just encourage you, consider this. When we spoke to the city planning division and said, how do we go about to, create this within our community? This was the way to do it. There is a stigmatism with, or I'm sorry, a stigma with, or negative, with commercial. It's not that we are commercial. We are not running commercial through this neighborhood. That happened to us, to the west. We're looking at a map right now. We're extending that map by 28 feet. That's it. And we're using the existing structure and trying to move forward with that. So I will stay to any questions.
I think I have a quick one probably, and this would, I think, alleviate some of this. So obviously it's a small footprint of a lot. It's a small footprint of a house. I think the concern is there's gonna be a million parking spaces, everybody's gonna be parked everywhere. I'm looking at it, I think you
The
might be
parking
able to.
ratio is one parking space per 300 square feet.
Right, and I guess that's what I'm suggesting is the max you could fit in there is probably 2 to 3 parking spaces anyway, right? I mean, the maximum. That's looking at it. But then you also would have to consider stormwater. So you may not even be able to do that. So I think I like what you're proposing. I think there's the concern that the whole yard's gonna be paved and hopefully, I think that what I'm hearing is that can't happen anyway, right?
But if we do not get permission from you all this evening to move forward, then we don't even know what we can do with Swift Mud and with the parking and with all those regulations. We know there's going to be an expense moving forward. We know there's going to be 2 parking spaces, 1 handicap, and there's going to have to be a stormwater swale. We're going to have to fit this on the property. But for the thought moving forward of this commercial use with traffic going all around, that's not what we're talking about right now. You know, we're gonna be limited, but we can't go forward. This is the first step. We cannot go forward without the approval of you all this evening to even know that we can go to the jurisdictional agencies that give that permission.
I would like to provide a little bit more clarification. So for professional office, up to 2,000 square feet is 2.5 required spaces per 1,000 square foot. Based on 900 square feet, that's 2 parking spaces, the single family required 2. But that length of driveway as well as the garage, the parking could be addressed and handled within the existing garage and driveway without even needing that all be addressed in site plan. Showing those spaces and going forward with that, but it's not going to need a large lot to add to that. Additionally, MX, while commercial, the intent of it is for these mixed use concepts, single family, multifamily, and commercial. The commercial that's allowed is very light and supposed to be compatible with single family. Those that may be a little on the border are special use approval that we come before this body and have proper conditions, but the ones that are permitted by right are these small offices, very small retail shops, small restaurants, things of that nature. But again, within the footprint of the home and the codes that would have to be required to convert it, office is probably the only thing that you're going to see that would go into there with also that residential unit upstairs.
Are there any other mixed use, I guess, properties within that general area?
Well, as far as zoning,
North
Yeah.
and
yes,
west, yeah,
so.
and across the street.
Yeah, so as you look there, all of that salmon color is all MX. And that property immediately to the north was a single family home that has been converted to an office. Now, they don't have the residential component to it, but it's completely a single family home that parking occurs in the driveway. They did make some parking to the rear, but that's because they have access off of K. Obviously, that wouldn't occur with this
And
location.
not to interrupt, but the reason why we are here because or for the request that we have is because of the residential component, we have to go through this. We would not be allowed to live above, right? Have the residential component on the top floor if we did not have the MX use below. And I think that's, I don't know if I'm overstating, but.
Yeah, so yeah, our commercial zoning districts, C2 doesn't allow any residential. C3, as you get to there, allows multi-unit residential. So you'd have to have more than one unit. The really MX is the zoning district that would allow that singular unit along with an office use to it. And that was the intent of the code when MX was created and replaced our office professional zoning district.
Would you clarify, it's residential, the whole thing currently?
Correct.
Okay, they want to have a residential on the top floor. What if they, instead of putting a commercial business there, what if they just made a small apartment?
So that they could go through
A
that
one
process.
bedroom apartment
So-
and not have these issues. Would that be consistent with the thinking of the neighborhood?
So you can't do that within R2, but MX does allow for single family and multifamily and the light commercial. So could they convert it to a duplex or multiple units? They could if they can meet all the requirements that would be needed. Again, the boundary is established in this area. Even the properties to the south that are R2 are primary activity center, which is our most intense land use that looks at this mixture of these different uses and intensities. But again, the established corridor here of MX, it is compatible along that area. As you can see right here at the map we're looking at, the alley comes here. All these parcels are MX. This almost takes up the entire parcel. There's just, I think Sarah reported to us about
28 feet.
28 feet of it that is just south of that alley. But, and then to the concerns of those worrying about a domino effect, if someone else say that this parcel, this was granted, and the next parcel came in, we would look at that and say, while it's contiguous to MX, that boundary is kind of drawn with that Avenue K frontage because Fifth Street Southeast is that local roadway. So we would probably not consider that and allow that to move forward because it wouldn't follow the pattern in this area.
One more question. If this were allowed, would that automatically allow all those houses of the other people on that or in that section? Could they do the same thing?
They have to go through the same process.
They would have to request for it. We're only looking at this one property for this request to rezone it to MX.
Is there any way that you can show I don't have a mouse, but the depth of, okay, so the corridor of Avenue K, the depth of what we're doing, the depth of what was already approved, and the depth of what is west of us.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see on the map. I don't have any way to measure. This is just an image photo, but again, that's what she's talking about is that this basically front part of this block is all MX. And as you continue, the majority of this parcel is BMX, but at this entire corridor goes down to MX. And then you also have R5 over here, which is multifamily residential high density, which is a very intense use. Probably more intense than what could be developed on the small parcel as MX that abuts immediately adjacent to these R2. So again, because of the development pattern of the area, the primary activity center future land use that's on it and the size of this parcel, staff does support that MX is a compatible resource.
In layman's terms, the alley is a natural buffer for the MX district to prevent that domino effect going back into the neighborhood.
I see.
Any other questions?
Isn't the public hearing closed, that portion?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
No, I'm sorry, you've already had your opportunity.
The only question I think I have, which is, I guess, it is what it is right now, but I'm wondering. At some point, are we gonna look at the primary activity center and kind of redo some of the striping there? It seems to maybe not make sense, but.
There's areas within.
Like it's too far over.
Yeah,
You know what I
so-
mean? It
yeah.
should be the one next door. I agree.
We
I agree. I know
could, that's
that.
something that we could possibly look at. We are in the middle, as you remember, the comp plan and it has been transmitted and will be coming back. I'm looking forward to adoption of that, but we are kind of at a standstill based on Senate Bill 250 for the next 15 or so months of kind of taking any administrative requests. But those are some of the things that we want to look at is squaring up the boundaries, matching more consistently with zoning and addressing that at that.
And if I might say real quick, when you say the squaring up of the boundaries, if you look at the corridor south of Avenue K Southeast, you will see the depth of what is east of us, right? We are one property south of what is already MX. And we are increasing that depth just by 28 feet. You know, we talked to staff about it, but look what is next to us, which is west of us, and the depth of that encroached into that. We're not asking to turn this entire residential neighborhood, an established residential neighborhood, into a commercial enclave or corridor or whatever. We're asking for an extenuation of what is adjacent to us. And then we are admitting that we are actually going to be 28 feet deeper than what is there now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you want to come on up and, okay, were you sworn in earlier?
I was not.
Okay, if you'll state your name and address.
Kristen Rabb, 535 Avenue M Southeast.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth?
Yes. I don't think the 28 feet thing is the issue. The issue is there's no access to this property from Avenue K. Every other MX thing listed there, all those properties, they have access from Avenue K. You would have to come into the neighborhood to access this house. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public meeting or public. Oh, goodness, sorry. And reopen mission meeting. Anybody has any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I can make a comment if I can. I'm having trouble with this. I don't believe I can support it.
I'll make a motion in favor of case number P-23-47, a request by William Wright from Irrevocable Trust to rezone the parcel from single family residential small lot R2 zoning district to mixed use MX zoning district, general location 11 and 3 Fifth Street Southeast. Area covered by the request is 0.21 more or less acres as presented in the fact sheet and by staff.
I'll second. All in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
We may need a roll call vote just to verify this, or do you got it? Okay,
That's my one.
right.
One question I have at this point. Now it goes from here to the city commission. And the people who are in favor of it or not in favor of it can speak at the city commission. When do you think that would be?
I haven't determined which dates yet it'll be going forward, but it has a first reading and a second reading. The second reading is the public hearing before the city commission and will be publicly noticed through a legal ad that is required for all second reading ordinances.
Okay, so this would be published in the paper when this would come
As
up
well as,
before
and-
the
and-
city commission.
And the city commission agenda packet, yes.
Right, so they should watch the newspaper for that. What newspaper?
Excuse
is it
me,
usually
Commissioner,
in?
did you ask the same question for every other case that came before you this evening?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Next up, we have case number P-23-48. Request by John G. Wood and Associates to rezone 9 parcels from single-family residential small lot R2 zoning district to single-family residential large lot R1 zoning district. General location, the Wood Point Phase 3 subdivision, generally located at the north end of Lake Hill Drive, approximately 240 feet north of Wood Point Drive. The area covered by this request is 3.95 plus minus acres.
Okay, I'm going to present this item. The map you see in front of you is the future land use map, property or subdivisions presently designated as residential low density. Again, here's the zoning map, the subdivisions designated are zoned R2 single family residential. And then here's the aerial. It does not depict the lot configuration, but it is a small subdivision. And it has been platted, and there are currently no houses built within the subdivision. Here's a view looking into the small subdivision. This is a view to the east. Again, it's undeveloped retention areas of Wood Point phase 1, then some woodlands off in the distance. To the east, we have former citrus groves. To the south, we have prior phases of Wood Point. And then to the west, we have prior phases of Wood Point. Little background, the property covered by this request consists of the Wood Point Phase 3 subdivision. It's located at the north end of Lake Hill Drive, contains 8 vacant lots and a stormwater management area. Petitioner is requesting R1 zoning to better reflect the platted lot sizes, as well as the building setbacks of previous phases of Wood Point, which followed building setbacks originally approved by Polk County over 20 years ago. As Wood Point Phase 3 is currently platted, there will be no additional demands on supporting utility, roadway, or public school infrastructure. In conclusion, requested zoning to R1 is consistent with the adopted residential density future land use and that the surrounding developed neighborhood. As Wood Point Phase 3 is currently platted, there will be no additional demands on supporting utility, roadway, or public school infrastructure. And staff has reviewed the proposed rezoning request and determined it to fall within limited exceptions of Senate Section 14 of Chapter 2023-304 laws of Florida. Therefore, staff does recommend the Planning Commission recommend approval of this request as forwarding to the City Commission for final action.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? Nope. Okay, close the planning commission hearing, open the public hearing. Anybody would like to speak on behalf of this case? Okay, close the public meeting, reopen the planning commission hearing.
I'll make a motion in favor of case number P-23-48, a request by John G. Wooden Associates to rezone 9 parcels from single family residential small lot R2 zoning district to single family residential large lot R1 zoning district. The general location being Wood Point Phase 3 subdivision located at the north end of Lake Hill Drive, approximately 240 feet north of Wood Point Drive. Area covered by this request is 3.95 more or less acres as presented by staff and in the fact sheet.
Second. All in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, I will go very briefly, given the late hour. Past items, we did have 2 items on the July 11th agenda. Those are both moving forward to City Commission during this month and should be finalized August 28th. The big item that's going to be moving back forward is the 2035 comprehensive plan. We got a clean report from the state and reviewing agencies, and we're planning to adopt that document at August 28th City Commission meeting. And then the last thing I want to touch is we do have a September 5th meeting now. One item that we thought is going to actually be on the agenda. Again, want to confirm that date works for everybody before we go through the advertising process.
Good.
Good deal. And that's all for me.
Okay. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
We gotta do the last 2 items.
Oh,
Comments from the
Comments.
commissioners and the comments from Barry, but public.
trying to get out of here quick, right? Planning commissioners, any comments?
Mm-mm.
Any comments from the public?
Oh.
I have one
Oh.
comment.
Mhm.
I believe when we have people here, some in favor, some not in favor, and we approve what the resolution is, I think it would be proper that we tell them that there's one more phase, which is the city commission. I don't think we should keep that a secret. We were dealing with one party that felt she had some sophistication in this. I don't know what her background was, but I think it's only fair that we let the people know there's one more phase beyond this meeting, and this is not final.
Actually, we do. It's in the recommendation as
Yes.
far as staff's presentation. So we have always made that.
Yeah, when it's a special use, we ask for the planning commission to take action, and then in our request for anything that goes forward is to recommend approval or so forth, and it's forwarding to the city commission for final action.
Yeah, the only ones I think we're actually allowed to do anything with is a special use. That's where the final jurisdiction or whatever, so.
And as staff, we do not fully have control over the dates that they'll go forward. So that's why we do not announce those dates during this.
But we can say it will be published in the paper when this will be acted upon by the city commission. Couldn't we?
That's not the easiest way to find it, but yeah. I would definitely go to the agendas.
Yeah, it's the website's the better location to find it.
Okay, thank you.
Comments from the public? None? Meeting adjourned.
That was only 2 hours. We've had longer meetings than that.